Great, thank you very much. Good evening, everyone, and welcome to the Basalt Town Council meeting for November 23, 2021. We are 2 days before Thanksgiving, so we're going to get through our agenda tonight pretty expeditiously, but thoroughly, and make no mistakes. So to get kicked off tonight, we are in person, and we have our town manager, Ryan Mahoney, and our fellow councilor, David Knight, are joining us virtually. So otherwise, we'll be business as usual. So Pam, if you please call the roll.
I would be happy to. All right, let's begin with Gary Tenenbaum.
Here.
Bill Infante.
I am here.
Thank you. Glenn Drummond.
Here.
David Knight is joining us virtually. David.
Here.
Thank you. Elise Hoddle.
Present.
Thank you. Ryan Slack.
Here.
Thank you. And Bill Kane.
Here.
Perfect. Thank you.
Thank you very much. First order of business is our consent agenda. So we have two items. 2A, minutes from November 9, 2021. Again, very well done. And number 2B, Resolution 49, Series of 2021, a resolution of the Town Council of Basalt authorizing a mail ballot election for the Town of Basalt regular municipal election to be held on April 5, 2022, and authorizing the town clerk to appoint election judges. So I would entertain a motion to approve a consent agenda unless anyone wants to pull either of those items off for discussion.
Mayor, I move the town council approve the consent agenda items as presented.
Second.
Okay, moved and seconded. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
We have to
Can
roll call.
Oh, we have to roll call because of
Yeah.
the call in?
'Cause of
Okay,
Zoom.
we'll do the roll call then.
Because of David.
Thank you. Let's
Just hang up, David.
I'll make it quick.
Shake your
Let's begin
computer.
with David Knight.
Yes.
Bill Infante.
Yes.
Glenn Drummond.
Yes.
Elise Hoddle.
Yes.
Ryan Slack.
Yes.
Bill Kane.
Yes.
And Gary Tenenbaum.
Yes.
Motion carries. Thank you.
All right, thank you. Next order of business is called the public comment. So at this portion of our meeting, either from the audience or virtually, electronically, feel free to call in. You can, this is your opportunity to address town council on any item that is not scheduled on the evening's agenda. So with that, I'll open the floor for anyone that would like to address council. Susan?
Oh, no, I was just gonna make my announcement about
Yeah.
how to join
Yeah, go
publicly, so I didn't really mean to interrupt, but
No.
we have no one here in the audience that wants to speak, and if you want to participate remotely and make a public comment, the best way to do that is the first page of the agenda has the instructions, and there's a link that you can join the Zoom meeting, and then Pam can let you in. You can also call us at 1-346-248-7799, and the webinar ID is 857-7532-8705. And if you have a problem, you can text me at 970-379-1514. And Pam, I don't think you have anybody, right?
You're correct. I do not.
Okay, so looks like we're good.
Okay, thank you very much. So with that, we will move on. I think we will open it up to if there are comments from council or reports that you'd like to make tonight. Ryan, please.
I just have a quick one from the past RUAPA meeting. We finally got the number of inspections. There was over 5,700 boat inspections at Rudai this summer, 209 total decons, and 21 boats stopped with mussels. About a couple more boats than last year, but inspections were actually down by almost 1,500, which is kind of impressive because last year was a shortened season. So, but the program's doing great, and so
That's great.
glad that we continue to fund it.
So we're not seeing any evidence of critters
Still no.
getting on the dam or anything? No, that's nice. Okay, well, thank you. Anyone else like to report, update, comment? Okay, with that, I will see if
We're
the...
gonna make a comment about Santa, though.
Oh, of course. Thank you very much, Susan. Man, I need cue cards up here. So I've been reminded that we have a couple of tree lightings, and our first will be on Friday, December 3rd at Triangle Park. This will be at 5 p.m.
46.
4 to 6. The lighting will take place at 5,
Yeah,
right?
about 5:30.
Roughly. I never know. You just have
Yep.
to see whenever
Yep.
kind of Santa gets there, and, you know,
I
so.
don't think Santa's at that one.
So,
He's just at the town one, right? Or is he at both?
He's at both.
Oh, he's at
He's at
both.
both Triangle Park and Lions.
so Triangle Park, and then Friday, December 10, is at Lions Park. So both of these events will be 4 to 6, and then we are also going to have the lighting of the menorah, which will take place on Sunday, November 28th. Also, the hours will be the same for the, you know, we're going to wait till it gets dark, so around 5 o'clock. So that'll take place in Lions Park. So, did you have a comment about Santa and Mrs. Claus, Susan? Is there a cue here that I'm
They'll
missing?
be there.
Well, this is, last year Santa and Mrs. Claus couldn't come to Basalt because of COVID.
COVID,
And so they're gonna make a personal visit, and we have letters that you can go online and print your letter
Wow.
and deliver it to Santa. And on our webpage at www.basalt.net, you can pull up other activities like our tree lighting contest, and we're particularly looking for apartments and condos this year to participate. So we got a lot of fun things going on, so you can check the webpage.
Very neat. All right, well, thank you for that. Got that covered. Any other comments? Ryan, did you have anything you want to offer, or you've been jamming around? I don't know if you want to say a few words, or should we move on?
I don't have any report. I've been out of the loop for a few days, Mayor. So the Santa was the one thing I wanted to make sure people heard about, because I got a call on that today.
Yeah, you got your priorities right there, I think. Very good. Okay, guys, well, that's allows us to move on then to our first order of business for tonight. These are council actions, the first of which is item 6A. It's a public hearing, second reading, ordinance number 14, series of 2021, an ordinance of the Town Council, Town of Basalt, Colorado, authorizing issuance of general obligation bonds to finance Basalt Forward projects. Christie.
Yeah, thank you, Mayor. So nothing has really changed since the last presentation of this. This is just, as the title states, authorizing issuance of the GO bonds. We're looking at authorizing all the bonds in early January of next year. So we're getting moving on these projects in conjunction with the passage of this election and moving forward pretty quickly. So I've got Bruce and Dee here to answer any of your questions if you have any additional questions.
Questions, council? For Bruce or Dee Weiser about our bond issuance? I think we had a pretty thorough presentation at our last meeting, so I think we're probably pretty good to go.
Okay, great, thank you.
This is a public hearing, so we have to provide an opportunity for anyone from the public that would like to address council on ordinance number 14, authorizing issuance of GO bonds.
So Pam, I don't think you have anybody in the queue that wants to speak, right? And I went through the explanation for those who are watching. If they want to participate, and if you're having trouble, just text me at 970-379-1514. But I think we're not going to have.
Okay, good.
anybody speak.
Hearing no public comment, if there are no questions from council, I'd entertain a motion to approve ordinance 14.
Mayor, I move the town council adopt ordinance number 14, series of 2021 on second reading.
Second.
Moved and seconded. Pam, please call the roll.
Absolutely. Let's begin with Bill Infante,
Yes.
Glenn Drummond,
Yes.
Elise Hoddle,
Yes.
Ryan Slack,
Yes.
Bill Kane,
Yes.
Gary Tenenbaum,
Yes.
and David Knight.
Yes.
Thank you. Motion carries.
Good. Thank you, Christie. We're going to move on to item 6B, resolution number 50, series of 2021. Resolution of the Town Council of Basalt, Colorado, adopting post-issuance debt compliance policy for tax-exempt and tax-advantage governmental bonds.
Doesn't this topic sound so exciting to all of you? I mean, come on. How much more exciting does a topic have to be? No, just kidding. I've got Bruce here for this one too. This, as it says, is it's a policy that we're adopting on our financial policies relating to the debt issuance and the compliance requirements. And there's some pretty definitive and detailed requirements for, especially for your tax exempt bonds, that the IRS requires you to keep a lot of the documentation for a long time. And so we just wanted to be proactive in making sure we're keeping all that information that we need to for compliance purposes and for full transparency for those. Bruce, is there anything else you'd want to, if you're still on, I don't know if he's.
He is. Yeah, he's.
No, Christy, I think you've done a great job of teeing this up, and I totally agree with you that it's probably one of the most fascinating agenda items that we asked for. And I would also note that Dee really is an expert in the specific tax law issues that relate to this policy, but I would just note that really the market expectations and regulatory expectations to have this type of policy have evolved since the town's last public bond offering back in 2013. So for those of you who were around back then, it wasn't really on our radar screen back in 2013, but it certainly is something that we would recommend as a best practice, and just to make sure you can check the right boxes after the bond issues in terms of having this policy in place.
Thank you, Bruce.
Any questions from council? Hearing none, this is a resolution, not a public hearing. I would entertain a motion to approve resolution number 50, series of 2021.
Mayor, move that town council approve resolution number 50, series of 2021 as presented.
Is there a second?
Second.
Thank you. Been moved and seconded. Pam, please call the roll.
Thank you. Let's begin. Glenn Drummond,
Yes.
Elise Hoddle,
Yes.
Ryan Slack,
Yes.
Bill Kane,
Yes.
Gary Tenenbaum,
Yes.
David Knight,
Yes.
Bill Infante.
Yes.
Motion carries.
Okay, next item, item 6C. This is public hearing, second reading, ordinance 16, 2021. It's an ordinance of the town council of the town of Basalt, Colorado, approving water rate charges pursuant to section 13-47 of the town code. So, either Christie probably, Christie or Ryan,
Yeah.
whoever wants to.
I'll probably, just because I'm
That's where we
present, I'll probably talk on this. Once again, this is the second reading, so we went through a pretty detailed information at the last meeting, and this is in regards to a 7.5% increase in the water rates. This is our first request for almost 4 years, and just to meet our capital replacement targets and make sure that we're keeping the water fund fiscally solvent and sound. That's the reasons behind it. And that's about all I have to say.
Okay. So, obviously no one in the live audience, anyone calling in about our water rates?
And you should officially open the public hearing.
Okay. I will officially open the public hearing, and we are open for calls or from live audience, of which there are none, so.
Pam, do you want to just confirm that for the record?
Correct. There's no one sitting in the attendees section.
Okay, so I think we're
Okay,
ready.
Good. All right, then I would entertain either questions or motion to approve ordinance number 16, our water rate increase.
I just have one quick question. When do we expect the water capital needs and water rate study to be completed? I see it's obviously before the 2022 budget, but.
Thanks, Ryan. That, we're looking at, that is part of the 2022 budget, I would say sometime in the mid part of the year.
Okay.
We're really gonna start with doing a lot of the Midland Avenue streetscape and getting that moving, and some of the Basalt Forward projects. And I know that Boyd has that on his radar to get an RFP out on that sometime in the mid-year.
Oh, okay, so we won't see it till the end of next year.
Yeah, probably mid to end, yeah.
Okay.
Any other questions, comments? Entertain a motion to approve ordinance 16, 2021.
Mayor, I move the town council adopt ordinance number 16, series of 2021 on second reading.
Second?
Second.
Thank you. Moved and seconded. Roll call.
Is Certainly. Let's begin with Ryan Slack.
Yes.
Thank you, Bill Kane.
Yes.
Thank you, Gary Tenenbaum.
Yes.
David Knight.
Yes.
Bill Infante.
Yes.
Glenn Drummond.
Yes.
Elise Hoddle.
Yes.
Motion carries. Thank you.
Thank you. Next order of business is item number 6D, first reading of ordinance number 17, series of 2021, ordinance of the Town Council, Town of Basalt, Colorado, creating a special fund account, capital construction fund.
So, thank you, Mayor. So this, this particular line item, you know, the vote that we had, with our public, with the projects of the Basalt Forward was really a vote of confidence at over 70% passage, and showing that trust in, this organization and how we operate and administer all these things. We want to keep that trust, and we want to show them, through our due diligence and through how we're doing our accounting and financing, that we're doing everything to be fiscally transparent, as possible. So, and this is one of those things, is it's not required that we put this through the you know, a different fund. We could use our general fund for this, but we believe that this is a better and more transparent approach for council and for our, community, to have a separate fund. I talked to the Finance Advisory Board about this, and they're all in agreement as well.
Okay. So this is the first reading, is not a public hearing. So, there are questions from council? All right. If there are no questions, I would entertain a motion to approve ordinance number 17 on first reading.
Mayor, I move the Town Council approve ordinance number 17, series of 2021 on first reading and set the public hearing and second reading for December 14th, 2021.
Second.
Okay, moved and seconded. Roll call, please.
Certainly. Let's begin with Elise Hoddle.
Yes.
Thank you, Ryan Slack.
Yes.
Thank you, Bill Kane.
Yes.
Gary Tenenbaum.
Yes.
David Knight.
Yes.
Thank you, Bill Infante.
Yes.
Glenn Drummond.
Yes.
Motion carries. Thank you.
Okay, next order of business is our annual budget. So this is item 6E. It's a public hearing and resolution number 51, series of 2021, a resolution of the Town Council of the Town of Basalt, Colorado, adopting the annual budget for the fiscal year beginning January 1, 2022, and ending December 31, 2022, and summarizing expenditures and revenues for each fund. Christie?
That's a pretty exciting title too, I must say.
Yeah.
So the next two items, as you know, we have to adopt the budget, and then we have to appropriate separately in a separate resolution. We're doing both this meeting in November. It's noted on our calendar a little bit different, because in the past, we've done two readings and an ordinance, but doing a resolution, as we talked to Jeff Conklin about too, is more in line with the town's charter. That's why you're seeing both in November. And so we wanted to give, since we are doing the resolution, we wanted to give a little bit more space and time, because it only requires one reading. So this is how we're going to do this and operate into the future for our calendar in the future too, just as a note. I'm not going to belabor this budget. We've gone through it in copious detail, as you know I love to do. But I will note a couple of things that have changed since we've reviewed it in October. The first thing is that the council has had that presentation on the downtowner. And so initially in our original budget, we had $130,000, and based upon the presentation we had, we increased that budget to a $195,000 line item. This is seen as a one-time thing, as a test kind of thing, but yeah, this is a pilot project, excuse me. So that was the only change we have in the budget right now. I do not change the projection or anything else, because I want to make sure everybody really does know these numbers very well, and I don't want any surprises. But one thing I would note on the projection is that it looks like we're gonna be 350,000 to 600,000 better than this, on our bottom line. And that's, mostly because of some of our building permit fees, because we're getting a lot of building permit fees in this year. And those are just based upon how they roll in with developments. It's really hard to determine that ahead of time. And the second is sales tax. So there is gonna be a little bit, we're looking a little bit more favorable than the projection that I have here. I am going to make a couple modifications to this budget. We do have an appropriations resolution, later in the agenda, that has not yet been passed, that if that is passed, I will add those line items into the final budget for 2021. And I will change the calendar to reflect that we passed the resolution today. But then, other than that, there's a few small projects that, since we have so many capital projects now, this is unprecedented, really, that sometimes it depends on the fiscal year that they really fall in versus where we think they're going to fall. One of those is some child development center fees for design. Those may fall into next year. We had them maybe planned for this year. We thought we were going to originally get them, and a couple of other smaller ones. But we'll do the appropriate supplemental appropriation for next year to reflect those properly after we know the timing of those projects. But there's no large projects like that. I'm talking smaller ones. Okay.
Okay. In our motion, Jeff, should we indicate, should this go forward with approval, should we indicate as qualified as amended with the comments that Christie just added?
Yeah, I was going to ask Christie about that. So I guess it would be, the approval of this budget would be, with any amendments based on passage of the 2021 supplemental appropriation
Yes.
and amended budget.
Correct.
Should we do the appropriations first and then do this? Does that clean it up?
Well, could have done that, but I think it'll be fine to take them in this order. Yeah.
And it is a public hearing.
Okay, now it's a public hearing, so we want to open this up for public comment. We are adopting our town budget for 2020, fiscal year 2022. Public should be aware that, while this looks very brisk tonight, we've spent numerous meetings and work sessions over the last 4 months to review the budget, so I think we're all pretty familiar with it. And I'd just be pleased to take comment from the public tonight, should there be any.
And just a note, I haven't received any text message from anybody that's having a problem accessing the meeting, and I don't think that Pam is showing that anyone is asking to be elevated or anything, correct, Pam?
Correct. I have no one sitting in the wings.
Okay.
That's why Christie adjusted the calendar time now, so it's like at Thanksgiving and people are away and nobody's watching.
Yeah.
Have you worked in government?
So, all right, if there are no questions comments from the public.
I have a couple.
Yeah, Bill?
Just a couple observations.
Sure.
And we didn't really talk about the implications of now having a $50 million a year budget. So I know that staff works awfully hard, so the big question is, what are we planning to do to be able to manage $50 million when in the past we've managed $15 million? How are we going to handle that? What are our staffing plans? How do we expect to staff up, probably across departments? So that's one element of the question. The other observation, which we didn't discuss either, in the capital improvements plan, there is a pretty significant amount of money now going to be spent on the maintenance shed, phase 2, and a supplemental. And what we had originally understood, or what I had originally understood, was that we were going to pay $1.8 million for the property, which I was not enthusiastic about, and then we were going to spend approximately $300,000 to build a pole barn. The way this reads now, we're looking to spend around $2.8 million in subsequent enhancements. And so I'm just kind of curious what we're going to be doing to spend all of that money, and if you could explain that a tiny bit. Last point on BPAC, I am thrilled that we're going to be dedicating an awful lot more money to BPAC for public arts, and I think that's an absolutely great thing. But if we're going to be spending several hundreds of thousands of dollars on the procurement of public art, I wonder what procedures we're going to adopt for that procurement, whether we're planning to issue RFPs with some consultation for BPAC, or how that's all going to transpire.
Okay. Thank you. I'll start off, and then I might have Susan and Ryan jump in a little bit too. So the first part on the staffing part for a $50 million budget, that's a very good question. I've run a lot of these different bond elections in the past over at the school district, and we've got some pretty good processes in place to make sure that on the financial basis, in the finance department, that we're able to run those pretty efficiently. I think that what we've been doing on the planning department is that we're adding that plans examiner position that will take some of the stress away from the planning department. So we're trying to support the planning department with their needs, because obviously that does impact them with the town engineer's time and with James and Susan's time and everything too. So I think that for right now, those are probably the two most heavily impacted, and then we'll have to watch Public Works, as well on that. But we don't have any plans for additional staffing yet on Public Works. On that.
Christie?
Yes.
I might just chime in as well that, I think we have been working really hard to get ourselves ready for the I guess additional workload. And one of the things, in addition to what you mentioned on bringing on a staff engineer, and then also looking at adding a position in the building department, is we're also using Phil Vaughn that will be, helping us, aiding us as essentially an owner's rep throughout the process. And so, that's going to be a big help to us. And then I think that, we are going to be metering these projects out over approximately the next 3 years. So it's not as if construction will be underway all simultaneously. And so, we're taking stock of all of the projects we have. It is a big number. It's an impressive load for, the town. And I think that we've done everything we can to ensure that we have, success in building these. And I think with, guidance from Phil, with these additional staff, and then of course we will be hiring, outside folks on the design and implementation side that can help. And, I think we'll be able to get through it, but it hasn't been without a lot of thought on the part of staff. So I think council can rest assured that we're, taking this really seriously and bringing, the best to bear as far as getting through the projects. On the maintenance shed, what we were working off initially were numbers for the pole barn that existed, that were the best numbers we had at the time. Again, this is through the help of Phil Vaughn that we've been able to assign more accurate numbers that we're seeing, in today's inflated market for, those improvements. We've also committed ourselves to doing these in the greenest way possible. And that adds, at least a 15% premium on top of, any building we're doing, which is, fairly significant. And so, the costs are certainly higher than what we anticipated. But, we are also looking at these improvements, at a sort of a 50-year horizon, as, they'll have utility for us, a long time into the future. So, just unfortunately, we're getting caught in a market that's, rising costs, but, I think it's still certainly worthwhile, and we'll have, I think, a little better handle on it with the help of our team at this point. And then as far as the BPAC improvements, I might have Susan chime in on it a little bit. But we will follow our procurement process on that. And Bill, I would think we would, you know, not try to sole source artists or anything. We'd probably put that out, you know, far and wide to see what we get and use BPAC and, you know, help them or have them help us decide what makes the most sense for art pieces and where, and bring that back to council. But certainly it'll be an open public process.
And maybe I could just put a little bit more explanation on the BPAC projects. We put $280,000 in the budget, which is pretty substantial.
Yes.
The
that's the issue.
$80,000 is kind of more, that's the operation piece and more the programs that you're used to seeing from BPAC. That includes the grants to other art nonprofits like the ice sculpture and murals. And they wanted to do like a couple really outstanding murals this year and this next year instead of doing the multitude that they did this year.
Right.
And then one of the things maybe of note is that we got comments from many of the different art organizations that they kind of missed that grant process that we had, that they could use for more like art base and theater in the park and Shakespeare and stuff. So they're bringing that back. In terms of the $200,000, those are the big capital projects. And if you remember, the Basalt River Park had a place for a large art installation kind of near where the back of the restaurant is in the river park.
Right.
And so one of them is earmarked there, which people would like to see earlier than later. And then the other $100,000 is for Willits Town Center. And we kind of recognize that we might not get all of that done. We just wanted the opportunity to get that done. And BPAC is really just at kind of that introductory discussion of how do they kind of roll out this program for the capital projects, and do they actually do a loaner piece or do they buy a piece, that type of thing. It's just intro.
Well, I guess it's both of those that I am most interested in, because they are relatively large procurements, and a $100,000 piece of artwork is a big piece that could be procured through a full and open with, frankly, a selection committee that has the requisite skills. But I actually want to go back to this maintenance shed, because Ryan, I hear what you said. I know that the prices have come up in the valley, but I actually have to apologize. I misspoke, because I was remembering the 1.8 million set aside for police department land, and I was adding that to phase 1B of public works. I should have been adding it to the $3.9 million for phase 2. So from a pole barn for $300,000, we're now at something significantly greater for $4.85 million. That's inflation. That's something else is going on. So I wonder what we're looking at.
Well, the pole barn was the first phase of it, and then in addition to all of the intersection improvements and that kind of thing that you're seeing out there today, and it'll include the fencing around the property. And so we actually have that budgeted for about 900,000 or so. And again, I think as we get into the meat of this is a pole barn that, we could go back and just put up a wood pole barn out there. But I think what through the discussion we had and what we're presenting to council is a structure that is a little, I guess, beefier than your standard pole barn. It can be enclosed in the future, and we are building up the slab that would be insulated so that we could add doors to it if we wanted to, and close it. And then again, hoping that this becomes a resilient spot in terms of not only producing energy but storing it. So in the event of some kind of natural disaster, that we would be able to stay operational. And I think all of those things come at a premium that we just simply weren't. I guess those details weren't vetted at the time that we purchased it, but, you know, I would present to council that we, are
Okay, I have a question
getting
for the lawyer
a
then.
product that is gonna be, have utility for the town for, you know, decades to come.
Okay, over to you, Jeff. To the extent that this is a capital improvements plan for the next 5 years, and this second chart is very much more notional, is that correct?
Can you just point, I want to make sure I'm looking at the right.
Page 60, approximately halfway down the table, Public Works Phase 2, 3.9 million. I mean, it's in the same general realm with the town hall for 10 million, police facility for 10 million. But I'm just particularly sensitive since we talked about the maintenance and public works facility quite at length. And this $5 million expenditure was never part of that discussion. So if I am opposed to that line item, can I vote for the budget with an amendment striking that? Or do I need to vote against the whole budget without amendment?
Can I just ask Christie a clarifying question on the
Okay.
budget? So can you just clarify for everyone's benefit, based on this chart, how the Public Works facility, both Phase 1 and Phase 2, how are they treated under the budget here? Just based on these notations, because we have 2022 budget for Public Works facility Phase 1B, completed Phase 1A in 2021, so there's 950,000 in the proposed 2022 budget. And then just based on facility needs review, if I'm reading this correctly, it's that Public Works Phase 2 is not part of the 2022 budget, is that right?
That's correct.
So this is just setting out that this would be a future need based on our facility needs study and capital improvement plan?
That's
Is that right?
correct.
Okay, so with that in mind, that this isn't contemplated as part of the 2022 budget, is your question that you wish to make a line item objection related to the Phase 1B,
It's actually Phase 2.
but that's not part of the
That's not
2022
part of the
budget?
2022 budget.
It's being laid out as part of the 5-year plan.
Per the capital needs study.
Right. Again, that may be implicit to you, but it is not explicit here. So the way I read this, we're planning to spend $3.9 million plus 950, which is not, these are not numbers we've ever discussed. And so on that basis, I feel extremely uncomfortable and resistant to approving anything that lays out a $5 million expenditure that we haven't discussed.
Wasn't it
So-
3.9? Isn't it 3.9 in 2023?
Yeah, that's
It's not clear when it is.
Well, on,
definitely not part of
on
2022's
page
budget.
Can I
Right.
make a comment?
67.
This
shows
was,
it.
this was always, you saw this page in prior budgets, and I'm gonna use planner speak. I always looked at this as kind of our wish list,
Right.
not the budget. So the
Precisely.
so it's kind of like, just like last year, we had Midland Avenue in there, but we didn't have, it was not a,
Yeah.
so it was more a wish list.
But see, part of
not-
the problem with wish lists is that once they appear in a budget anywhere, no matter how inconclusive for next year's budget, they seem to come back around, and that's been my experience over the past 3 years, that wish list items suddenly materialize as de facto budget line items in subsequent year budgets. And so,
I think there's
given that,
I think there's a difference between a wish list and a capital needs study. When you do a capital needs study, you hire a firm that determines what you need for capital improvements. No different than an HOA.
right.
And
And
so
we've done a
you're-
bunch of those studies now.
And so that was part of that study, and that company obviously recommended that you're gonna need some type of capital needs improvements for public works in the future. That's how I interpret it.
I mean, to answer your legal question, the charter authorizes you to make a line item abstention on a budget authorization.
Okay.
But because this isn't being funded by the 2022 budget, it may not perfectly mesh, but
Right,
that's the legal answer, I guess.
okay.
So But what,
So-
what
yeah.
are you fighting against on this?
The future?
Like,
Right.
future expenditures on this in general, or just in?
We had extensive discussions on the whole maintenance shed and whether we should be spending 1.8 or not,
Yep.
whether we should be spending on the pole barn or not. And the understanding at that time, when we were committing to expend those resources, was that this was more or less a $2.5 million proposition.
Yep.
Now, we're already in for probably 2.5,
Yep.
and we're facing another 4.8. So I'm looking at a budget that has exploded
Are you,
well beyond anything that I was ever comfortable with at the outset, and certainly far exceeds anything I'm comfortable with now.
But-
So again, recognizing that this is only a wish list, and recognizing that the balance of the budget I do approve for 2022, I'm looking for the elegant solution that will permit me to vote for this budget, but not support that line item.
That would be years down the road.
It doesn't matter. We're going to adopt this budget. It's going to have this table, and it's going to have 4.85 million dedicated to maintenance and
And-
public works
And the
facilities.
one you approved last year had the same table.
No, it didn't. I mean, it had the same table, but it didn't have $4.8 million in it.
We were contemplating it.
It wasn't in the budget. So, I mean,
Bill,
again,
if
So-
I'm looking at page 67,
uh-huh.
I just don't see, I'm not looking at the same page as you.
It's on page 64, Ryan, if you look at
I
64.
think it's 140 in our packet, if I'm,
I got it, okay.
Okay.
Jeff, is there an easy way for
Yeah,
Bill?
so,
I don't,
Not
Bill,
yet
if you,
funded. So he's-
if there is to be a
No,
motion to approve the budget,
I was trying to square this
the second,
with
and on a vote,
this.
I don't know what
a
these,
counselor can make a line item abstention as to any specific.
that's the offending page.
I also want to figure out
could
what.
we, is there a possibility that we just remove the wish list from the budget and leave the budget as just the hard numbers?
I'm against that.
I am too. You gotta look for the future. That's
I'd
like,
like to
that-
leave
that's,
it for the future, so.
that is part of what our duty is as town councilors, is to not look at this year, but look at 5 and 10, 20 years out. And if we are not forward-looking, we are not doing our job. And to admit, to go, this is not gonna be a need in the future, we're failing the community.
I'm just trying to find a solution.
Well, Jeff,
Yeah, so,
Yes, solution.
as I said, Bill, if you'd like to make a line item abstention with respect to that on your vote, that's allowed by the charter. And so that would memorialize kind of your position with respect to that item.
But then for clarity, I mean, any one of these items could be different than what we're proposing in this table.
Yeah,
Correct.
they could be different when comes time to approve them for the budget and spend money on them. You'll have a crack at it, and it's not.
The biggest
part of
thing
this
is
budget.
it's not part of the budget we're approving right now.
Yeah, again.
Billy, you got anything else?
No, any other comments, questions? I think we heard nothing from the public, so,
Did we open the public hearing?
Yeah, let's officially do that, make sure. I think we
Okay.
did already, but
Yeah.
let's do
I
it.
thought I did, but I
Yeah, we
will
did
do
when
it
you
again.
closed it.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I think we did, because you were discussing a motion, so, sorry.
So,
And just, before anyone does make a motion, I would
We
just
gotta do the amended part.
note that, motion should include that a condition that the budget may be amended based on a 2021 amended budget and supplemental appropriation.
So can you read that and I'll?
Sure, so I'll tee up a motion and someone could say so moved. So the motion could be that town council approve resolution number 51, series of 2021 as presented with amendments based on any 2021 amended budget and supplemental appropriation.
So moved.
Second.
okay, been moved and seconded. Pam, please call the roll.
Still typing up the motion. Okay. All right. Here we go. Begin with Ryan Slack,
Yes.
Bill Kane,
Yes.
Gary Tenenbaum,
Yes.
David Knight,
Yes.
Bill Infante,
Yes, with an abstention as advised by the town attorney, for a line item veto related to the line item Public Works Phase 2, 3.9 million, appearing on page 60 of the draft budget.
and Glenn Drummond,
Yes.
and Elise Hoddle.
Yes.
Motion carries.
All right, thank you. So we move forward. Chrissy, thanks for that. Our next order of business is Resolution Number 52, Series of 2021, Resolution of the Town Council of the Town of Basalt, Colorado, appropriating sums of money to the various funds and spending agencies in the amounts and for the purposes set forth below for the Town of Basalt, Colorado for the 2022 budget year. Okay.
Thank you, Mayor. So this also has to do with our 2022 budget, and this is just for illegally appropriating the expenditures for the year that's required by the state, and for other various reasons it's required. And so the only change to this compared to the last version from the first draft budget was the downtowner. All of the, anything that is not related to the 2022 budget, as we discussed in the prior line item, isn't really impacted by appropriation, because that's just specific to our 2022 budget and those dollars that are lined out in this resolution, so. Okay.
Okay. Questions, comments? Not a public hearing.
I do have one question.
All right.
Yeah.
We fund the downtowner, when does it start in January?
January is the plan.
Is,
Okay.
oh,
Yes.
awesome.
Yeah.
And then did RAFTA approve their,
They can't formally until the December meeting, basically because the board had to authorize the creation of a fund that was going to be used to fund first and last mile. So that happened at the last meeting, but sequentially that had to be in place before the grant could be made. So our expectation is that the board will take action on it at the December meeting, which is 2 days after ours is December 14th, so it'll be December 16th when we'll see action from RAFTA. But Ryan's been working with Travis Gleason, and we are making progress on making sure the vans are available, and we got the software in place. Ryan, do you want to comment on it?
Sure. Yeah, it looks like we have a meeting set with RAFTA and myself and some staff when I get back. But the downtowner did have to go ahead and bet on the come a bit to be able to secure vehicles, because they are really hard to come by at the moment. So they have reserved those, and I think sort of the point of our meeting is to really just sort of iron out the last details, like where are they going to put those buses. He obviously will need to hire staff, and then we need that formal adoption of the budget, both on RAFTA's end and the town's end. But he seems poised to be able to start sometime in January, and RAFTA was interested in getting that started as soon as possible too. So things seem to be tracking well at the moment.
cool.
Okay. Other questions, comments? Is there a motion to approve resolution number 52?
Mayor, I move the town council approve resolution number 52, series of 2021 as presented.
Second.
Okay, moved and seconded. Roll call, please, Pam.
Yes, let's begin with Bill Kane,
Yes.
Gary Tenenbaum,
Yes.
David Knight,
Yes.
Bill Infante,
Yes.
Glenn Drummond,
Yes.
Elise Hoddle,
Yes.
Ryan Slack.
Yes.
Motion carries.
Thank you. Our next order of business is item 6G. This is the first reading of ordinance number 18, series of 2021. Ordinance of the Council of the Town of Basalt, Colorado, amending the 2021 budget and providing for supplemental appropriations for the year ending December 31st, 2021, related to various revenues and expenditures. The public might want to hear a little bit more about that.
Yeah. No, this is great. So is it my turn?
Yeah.
Okay, thank you, Mayor. It's been my turn all night, just about.
Yeah. You're not done yet.
Yes, no, it's good. So there's a couple reasons why we usually do a supplemental budget for 2021 at the end of the year to just try to memorialize everything, making sure we're doing our correct appropriations for each one of our departments in accordance with our town charter and making sure we're in compliance with all the state laws and everything too. And the other reason for doing this is just to make sure that our budget is tracking more correctly with the actual numbers we're seeing for the year. So that council just gets these updates on what we're really looking at seeing on a revenue basis. And so so James, if you want to go down a little bit, there's an Exhibit A that I'll probably be referring to right after there we go, the ordinance. I just love call it coordinating things, because then you could see what has to do with what. But pretty much, you could see that the revenues, we've got $799,000 in general fund revenues addition, and post-sales tax increase. We've talked about sales tax increases this year. It's been pretty significant with 18% increase, and we did not budget that. And that's really what monetarily that looks to be. We're also looking at a $289,000 increase in building permit fees because of a lot of the growth in the town. Special improvement fees as well because of the growth of all the new developments that weren't anticipated at the beginning of the year because of the economy, of $64,000. We've got some sustainable building regulation fees, $27,500, also due to that same effect, and then some highway user tax fees. We've just gotten some growth this year. Recreation fees, the next line at $92,000. That's a pass-through for summer camp with used to be called Bear Bop Press. I think they've changed their name to Fafman Group. But anyway, there's also a corresponding expenditure for part of that that is for the contract labor part of that. So not an exact science, but that's where that is coming from. If you look at the post-sales tax increase of $600,000, we put $300,000 here because there's a lot of projects right now that are being completed in post. We're not sure which fiscal year they're going to really end up in, but we're not looking at any additional costs in total. We will be, once again, doing that reconciliation at the end of the year. And reporting that back to council as part of our audit. So you guys will get those numbers. When you look at the lodging tax of $119,000, this has been a stellar year for our lodging. That's really good for local lodges and things like that. Really happy to see that. There also are some corresponding expenditures to that because there's 4% of that. 1% goes to Basalt Chamber, 1% goes to the Capitol for lodging, and 1% goes to Parks Maintenance. So then you have to appropriate those expenditures to be utilized exactly as the ballot language had stated. So that's why that's showing that way. And then, so that's really in the tobacco tax. We've been talking about that. We've gotten even more in. It looks like we're going to be getting about $710,000. It's a banner year this year. So, I mean, on the revenue side, and that's not good news as far as what that means that people are doing in the town of smoking and all the tobacco related use. So, good and bad news there. So then looking at the other expenditures in white, okay, that don't really have to do with anything related to the revenues and inflows. We've got some additional costs that Susan and her team had already gone through with council in a different resolution. This $91,000 is truing up our budget on what we have in the budget versus that $320,000 that was the final outcome of that project on the cost. And then just for full transparency,
recording in progress.
Oh, Okay, thank you.
Okay, pop on at least once a meeting.
You can
Sure.
click, got it.
It's fine. Let's see, she's friendly voice. So anyway, market adjustment for salaries for cost of living and the market adjustment that we did middle of the year. We've talked to council about that, and the vacation payout. We've talked publicly into council about that and what that looks like. There's some timing of hiring and position structuring in the planning department. We've talked earlier about that just a little bit, and gearing up for everything that's going on the Basalt Forward project. And building permit fees are an offset against some of our building permit revenue. I mean, you've obviously got to keep doing those reviews, and they are costly, but we're getting a lot of revenue to offset that too. And then the capital construction fund on the way bottom line item, 250,000. That's a placeholder in case we need to do some additional, anything that we need to do as far as getting geared up for that Midland Avenue project. We're doing some title commitment work and some legal work associated with that. We're putting out an RFP for design work and just to make sure we have some funding appropriated in that fund for that purpose. Anything that's not used will stay in that fund and will be transferred into the next year.
Good.
I was told it's Thanksgiving week, I better keep talking.
Christie, real quick, on that capital construction fund, and then on the bonds, don't we have almost another $250,000 for kind of the same thing? And or is that just fees for Phil Vaughn and help that way?
The
The
fees for
0.26 million that was in.
What? Okay, so the fees for Phil Vaughn, our construction, that was a part of our Basalt Forward project that we paid through the general fund.
Okay.
Yeah, so we're not gonna utilize that towards the project because it's gonna help us with those project costs, and that wasn't in the budget for Midland Avenue, and so then that'll allow us to start those, Phil will be doing some billing for that project, and he's gonna separate that out by each one of the individual projects to bill into the future. Yeah.
Ryan, could I ask you a question if you're there, handy? Has to do with the broadband fiber addition, and is that 91,000, was that prompted by the disappointment and the inability to use the overhead pole up on Homestead, and we're going to have additional charges for undergrounding and conduit? Or is that
Yeah, so
just the timing?
the scope of that project had changed.
Okay.
And so we'll be able to bring it down. It'll basically cross the bridge, the Midland Bridge, to take a stop at the library. It comes over, and then we've already done some of the install through the new park area, and then down the Midland, down Two Rivers Road, and then it'll make its way up the gas line trail, and then ultimately up to the substation. So that money will still be spent, but you're right, the scope changed because the infrastructure, there wasn't enough space in some instances, and then the age of the poles in other instances. So one of the things that we'll look to do to bring it into the downtown as part of the Midland Streetscape project is, include that in the design for that project separately, but it'll that won't be covered by the 91,000.
And actually, could I just add a clarification on the 91,000? This 91,000 actually is the resolution that we took to the council maybe 3 weeks ago that had to do with the tree farm. So this is our partnership with the tree farm to try to get the traffic signals between El Jabal and Original Road. And originally, we budgeted some funds that we were getting from the Willits Town Center developer, and then we had added, I think, like $100,000. And then when we got the work, the bid from Heil through the tree farm, it was more funding, and we took that to the council. That's that 90. And just as a We're still waiting to hear from Picken County on how much work they'll be able to finish before the end of the year. We did our pieces that we could over with the Two Rivers Road project and the River Park, and that might be one of those carry forward projects that that Christie was talking about.
Thanks, that's for that clarification. I see that it does say tree farm broadband, so that's really separate from our downtown, you
Yeah.
know, expanded. Do we have an update or a kind of estimate on what the schedule may be for our Old Town Basalt broadband improvements?
That's what I was, we're waiting to hear from Picken County, because they were hoping to do that work this year, and so we're waiting to hear whether they're gonna finish that. We've done our part. We did fiber through the Basalt River Park and through Two Rivers Road, but Picken County was going to do the other part.
Yeah, there's a lot of interest among
Yep.
our citizenry on that project. It's kind of, a lot of our businesses are keenly interested in knowing about the schedule. So, you know, after the holidays, maybe we can, you know, get an update
Yep.
on the overall project with our Picken County partner and see where we are, so we can get the word out to the public. Okay, thank you. So any other questions, comments? All right, I'd entertain a motion then to approve the ordinance number 18 of 2021.
And that's one where we're approving it on first reading and setting the public hearing and second reading for December
Yes.
14th, 2021. That was for you, Glenn.
Okay. Mayor, I move that the town council approve ordinance number 18, series of 2021 on first reading and set the public hearing and second reading for December 14th, 2021.
Is there a second?
Second.
Okay, Elise got in there.
I was looking at Ryan because he was so close to the microphone. I thought he was going there.
That was
Just trying to share the love.
photo finish. So please call the roll, Pam.
Yes, let's begin with Gary Tenenbaum.
Yes.
David Knight,
Yes.
Bill Infante,
Yes.
Glenn Drummond,
Yes.
Elise Hoddle,
Yes.
Ryan Slack,
Yes.
and Bill Kane.
Yes.
Motion carries.
Great, thank you. On to item 6H, Resolution 53, Series of 2021. Resolution of the Town Council of Basalt, Colorado, approving the expenditure of community enhancement funds from Holy Cross Energy. Susan and Christie. Susan?
Yes, and this is just a benefit that we have with our franchise agreement with Holy Cross. And this resolution sets how the town intends to use the funds. And this year, we're proposing that the funds be used for green team projects, primarily for, the green team's been working on a number of projects. One of them is a grant program that they can be using for rebates and grants for existing buildings. And we're doing this kind of in alignment with Holy Cross and CORE, so we can kind of partnership with those projects. And then the green team has other projects that they could use the funds for, like battery storage and some code amendments, et cetera. But the main thing that they're working on for this money is the grant program. And in the past, we were using, for the last several years, we've been using these funds for events, and this year we thought we would use them to align more closely with the goals of Holy Cross. So that's what this resolution does. If there's any questions, we can.
So 40,000 is the sum, is that the total of the
Yep.
fund?
It's just a little bit more than that. We're just, keeping it easy. It's like 42,250 or something. So we're just going to do
Very
40,
good.
and we can keep the other funds in there.
All righty. Questions, discussion? Is there a motion to approve Resolution 53, Series of 2021, approving expenditure of community enhancement funds from Holy Cross?
Mayor, I move the town council approve resolution number 53, series of 2021 as presented.
Second.
Moved and seconded, please call the roll, Pam.
Yes, let's begin with David Knight,
Yes.
Bill Infante,
Yes.
Glenn Drummond,
Yes.
Elise Hoddle,
Yes.
Ryan Slack,
Yes.
Bill Kane,
Yes.
and Gary Tenenbaum.
Yes.
Thank you. Motion carries.
Thank you very much. On to item 6I. This is appointment of 2 representatives to the selection committee to recommend to the town council the local entity which will be the beneficiary of the 2022 Roaring Fork Club Charity Classic Golf Tournament. Susan.
So, well, this can be a fun committee to be on because you get to participate with Jeff Hasley from the Roaring Fork Club and Ryan Mahoney and someone from the planning department, a couple other counselors, and you get to pick.
Doesn't get any
who-
better than that, does it? Holy smokes.
You know, you get
But do we get to play golf?
who gets to be the beneficiary, and I included a lot of information in here, like who got it in the past. Response held a tournament late in the fall, and they earned over $55,000. So this committee makes a recommendation to the town council, and the annexation agreement is actually pretty formal. There's actually has to do a public hearing when you
Yeah.
make the appointment and everything. But Bill Infante and Auden Schindler were on the committee before, and Bill said he's willing to serve again. And so we're looking for a volunteer to serve on the
Is
committee.
it true the committee's required to go play the golf course several times before you
The person
go through
is
the
required to, maybe check out the course and make
Yeah.
sure that it's appropriate.
And the beverages to make sure everything's up to snuff? That's all good. Okay, so Bill, you're volunteering to stay on that?
Be pleased to serve again.
Okay, we need
When is
a
the time
replacement for Auden.
the committee to meet?
I don't have an exact schedule yet, but it's usually pretty easy because it's just a matter, we can hold our interviews by Zoom, and, it's a couple meetings.
But it's like, looks
Probably
like it's
more like-
spring.
Yeah, no, the golf course is in the spring, the tournament's in the spring, it'd be more like February.
Okay.
It's not
January,
too
February.
consuming.
I'm happy to do it if you want.
Great.
Go for it.
I would love to serve with Bill on something.
Sweet.
We'll look forward to that.
Appoint Ryan Slack and Bill Infante to this election committee.
Second.
Okay, been moved and seconded. Pam, please.
Do that last hurrah.
All right. I believe we can do this by consent.
You could. You can do a voice vote if you like.
You can do voice vote?
We can do a voice vote on this one, Mayor.
Okay, Pam, call the roll.
No, you can do voice
All
vote.
in favor?
What's
All in
that?
favor?
you.
All in favor, say aye.
Oh, aye. Yes. Yes, everything. Yeah, absolutely.
Bill, you need to call the voice vote so we can all say aye.
Voice vote.
I thought I already did, sorry. All those, we can do this voice vote. Okay, so all those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Aye. Well, thank you, guys. That was swift and efficient. So everybody have a great Turkey Day.
Happy Thanksgiving.
Happy Thanksgiving to everybody.
Yeah.
Happy
And
Thanksgiving.
love to see you out at the tree lightings, the menorah lighting.
What about the
and
turkey
all
trot?
the,
We didn't do an announcement.
Kwanzaa. We have several others.
Oh yeah, and don't forget,
Do an announcement for the turkey trot.
don't forget Turkey Trot, Thursday morning,
Yeah.
Thursday morning.
benefiting Peg at the Basalt Elementary School,
Oh, that's
I believe.
nice.
Yes.
Parental Advisory Group.
Is it a 5K? What is it? Is it?
It's I think a 1K and a 5K.
Okay.
David,
And I
have
do
something
believe
to say
Salvation
about
Army
that.
still needs bell ringers. So if anybody's willing to
Yes.
volunteer for that, go
Thank
for it.
you.
So
You'll
bell
see me
ringers,
Friday
sign
or
up.
Thursdays,
Bell
5 to
ringers
7.
are still needed, yeah.
Anything else, guys?
Thank you.
I was faltering at the finish line.
Happy
there.
Thanksgiving.
Happy Thanksgiving.
Happy
Thanks, guys.
Thanksgiving.
Appreciate it.
Thanksgiving, David. Have a safe trip.